Hello there, everyone. My name is Jim, and this is the July 28th, 2022 drone office hours. I will give you a little info about me. My name is Jim again. I'm a senior developer advocate at Harness, and I've been a drone user and contributor since 2018. And here are a few ways to get in touch with me. So the drone office hours, I've been doing this for a few weeks now, every Thursday, same time, 11 o'clock morning Eastern US time. And yeah, so sometimes I prepare a demo. Sometimes we talk with whoever might show up and have questions. Um, Today, I don't have anything prepared. So what I thought would be a good use of time would be to just kind of go through some of the interesting community threads and discussions that have been going on this past week in the drone community. So if I go over into my Slack, so this is the Harness Slack community at harnesscommunity.slack.com. We have a drone channel, which we're coming up on 1,600 users. So a lot of activity happening in here, a lot of knowledgeable folks exchanging information and helping each other. And I do my best to help when I can. But a lot of the time, the community is really good at helping each other, which is awesome. So the topic I wanted to touch on first is this one here from Pratik back on the 22nd. I believe this is Casper. I'm probably not getting anyone's name right. I apologize. So, but come here, come to the office hours and you can tell me how to properly pronounce your name. Little incentive. So here's a thread where they were talking about how to manage a pipeline. And Casper is talking about using JSON. So this is a cool feature of drone that is worth talking about. So drone YAML files can be a bit redundant. You can end up repeating a lot of information. Or if you want to do something like a matrix build, maybe, where you're doing basically the same thing over and over in slightly different ways, and you don't want to have to deal with all that duplication, right? So you don't have to write in raw YAML. You can write in JSON or Starlark. That's another option. It works the same way as far as on the drone side. So with JSON, you can write YAML like, or sorry, not YAML. You can write pipelines like this in this kind of JSON. And when so you have two options. You can either manually convert the JSONet yourself, and then check that resulting drone YAML in to your repository at the root level into a drone.jsonet file. Or you can, at the server side, set drone JSON enabled to true, and then drone will look for the .drone.jsonet file, I believe. That's a good question. I've never tried that. I wonder if when you enable that, if drone is smart enough to look for your .drone.json file, or if you have to go into the configuration for your repo and tell it to look for that file instead of .drone.yml. I'm not sure. I'd have to try it. But this way definitely works if you manually convert it and then check in the resulting drone YAML. So I was trying this before and I noticed something interesting. So let's delete this file. Delete that. So here's the JSON from that example. Same thing. Saved it to this file. If I use my drone, so use the drone CLI. If you've never seen the drone CLI, just Google drone.io CLI. It'll bring you here. It's a binary you can install on Linux, Mac, Windows. And we can configure it. You can authenticate with a drone instance and get all kinds of information about that instance and control things like repositories. You can do a lot with it, secrets, all that kind of thing. But for this example, this only requires the drone CLI. I'm not talking to a drone server when I'm doing this. It's just using the built-in capabilities of the CLI, and it will convert JSON it for you. So if I do this, I get JSON back, which is okay. YAML is what, a superset of JSON? I think that's accurate. They are, you can put JSON right in YAML. So they work together. I was expecting this to give me YAML, however, does not do that. And even if you just do drone JSON it without standard out, it writes the drone YAML file, and it's still in JSON format. So that's fine. And I just proved to myself that that's fine by going to a sandbox repository that I have here. Let's start over. Actually, you can see this from the beginning. Close this out, delete it. All right, so go into my drone YAML. This is just a sandbox repository that I use to play around with. So here's that output from JSON standard out. And if I dump that and paste in that JSON from my drone YAML, this couldn't possibly work, right? It's YAML. It should be YAML, not JSON. YAML. Blow this. Or JSON. Let's try this in a pull request. Open the pull request. This is actually going to kick off 2 drone pipelines because I didn't specify the branch in my config. So drone has no way of knowing that I don't want it to build off of my branch and a pull request. So I could have specified, a specific branch. If I had sent set a restriction of the main branch, I would have only seen the pull request pipeline run. Just explaining why you saw 2 pipelines run there. So here it is. This ran just fine. So that shows you what's happening behind the scenes when you're using JSON it. I'm just confused as to why it spits out YAML, or why it doesn't spit out YAML, it spits out JSON. I wonder if there's another parameter maybe to this. No. Right, output is a YAML stream. What does that do? No, like that. Top level object was an object to be an array. Okay, I'll look into that more later. But bottom line, it works just fine. And whether or not it's converting into YAML or JSON, either at the server level, if you set that JSON and enabled, or if you do it locally like I just did, it works just fine. So I brought up a few different pieces of documentation. So JSON it works as a template. So drone has a concept of templates where at the global level for I believe it's by organization. So you can have multiple organizations, of course. Like if you're in GitHub, you can have many organizations in GitHub, and you can enable them all in your drone instance. And then I believe templates are per organization. I don't think they're global. In any case, if you use a template, you can use JSON it as well. You don't have to use YAML in your templates. So that's another important thing to keep in mind, that you can leverage JSON it there as well, and Starlark. That's another syntax that's supported. The CLI I was just showing, I was using the drone CLI locally, and they did this. Yeah, this is what I just tried. Example prints a multi-document YAML to standard out. Go away. Terminal. This is what I just tried. Stream mode, top level. Show the array. Does it confuse it that it has this drone YAML file in there? No. Same thing. I'm going to come back to that. It's going to bother me. So that's a bit about JSON. I wanted to talk about Grafana. So I have been chatting with the release engineer for the Grafana project. And they use drone and they use JSON in a big way. See if I can do justice to what they're doing. They're using Starlark, I think. Sorry, but similar idea. They're not writing their their drone YAML directly. They are using Starlark. They're using an external tool to build this out. And look at this drone YAML. It is epic. Let's see, how far does it go? Almost 5,000 lines of drone YAML. This would be very difficult to maintain manually by hand, right? So if we look at the star file, well, this is only 21 lines. This is much more approachable. So it's loading in Starlark files from different directories. So those can each be managed on its own and, putting them together, assembling them. And they've even got some comments here of how this is going together using they use make. So let's look at what their make file does. Make file. And drone it in here somewhere. I might want to make this bigger, right? This is probably a bit small for the recording. Here's the drone section. Yeah, so it does, it uses the drone CLI to run drone Starlark -- format. And they even link the drone YAML file after. And they do some signing. So yeah, it's very, very cool use of a way of writing pipelines other than YAML in a very big, high profile open source project, Grafana. I'm hoping the guy's name is Dimitris. I'm hoping that we'll have him on either a webinar or a recording that we can do an interview and showcase how they're setting up their drone pipelines, because it's pretty impressive. So is he in here? That's someone else. Let me give him some credit. Here he is. Demetrius. Yep. Love Grafana. So yeah, look into JSON if you're feeling pain in maintaining large drone YAML pipeline files. So that's all I prepared. Let's see what else has been going on this week. Oh boy, this was a long thread. So switch to ECR on Docker Hub. Image. I probably shouldn't just jump into a thread. I don't have a lot of context, but man, it's awesome to see the community helping each other out. We're only a few engineers and a few developer advocates at Harness that have the bandwidth to be in here and try to help folks. So whenever this is happening between community members, it's pretty awesome. Oh, and Brad chimed in. Brad's the founder of Drone. It's always nice to see when he voices opinions and helps people out. So let's see. Here's one that I was involved in. How was this? So yeah, and I even linked to the last one of the recent office hours recordings in here. So here's Casper again. Again, I could be getting your name wrong. I apologize if I am. So he's using the autoscaler, and he wants to bring up another instance type. So the autoscaler for drone, the documentation is at autoscale.drone.io. It works for all these different cloud providers. He's using Amazon. I've used it on Amazon a lot, so I'm pretty familiar with it. So you can't, unfortunately, when you use the autoscaler, you can't, unfortunately, in your pipeline, tell it, I want you to launch this type of instance for me. The autoscaler will launch instances for you, but they all have to be pre-configured types. So you define if you need, specific AMI, or if you need it to come up in a specific region, or all your different things you can customize about your instances, volume size, where it's going to come up in a VPC, all that kind of stuff is very specific to the kind of runner you might need the autoscaler to launch for you, that kind of instance. So you can't tell it that you want to launch a specific kind of instance from your pipeline definition, but you can bring up multiple autoscalers and have them each maintain a type of instance. And if you use, let's see, drone agent labels, like I talked about in the previous office hours here that I linked, when I was talking about, multi-Kubernetes clusters, multiple Kubernetes clusters and routing pipelines to different runners in different Kubernetes clusters. Same capability is in use here, but just for auto-scaled instances. So if you configure your autoscaler to launch instances with specific labels, then your pipeline can be routed to whatever instance it needs to run on, based on label. So after a little bit of back and forth, this seemed to have worked out for him. So at first, though, he had two autoscalers and one database. The autoscaler has a database to keep track of the instances that are being launched, and if it sees, I think it will also do some garbage collection. If it sees an instance that it's not tracking, I believe it will terminate it, so you don't end up with orphan instances. So it's keeping that kind of information in the database. I don't know if you can use one database with like multiple tables with the autoscaler, but certainly multiple databases will work. So if you bring up multiple, one per autoscaler, it will definitely work. So this was apparently what worked for him. So it's nice to see that the autoscaler is still getting some use. Side note, there is now a VM runner that is probably going to see more attention in more development happening on it. I don't think it's officially released yet. Where are we? Runners. Yeah, VM runner, formerly AWS. This runner will, yeah, you'll be seeing more of this runner soon. Yeah, it's still on release candidate. This may take over the role of what the autoscaler is doing now. We'll see. I want to play around with this. I haven't played around with it yet. Yeah, so there's another Slack thread. Let's go on. What day are we on? We're on to Tuesday. I think I responded to this guy or this person. I don't know. No, could be. I won't assume anything. I have no idea what this person is. Searching for easy host type. They've got Docker Compose, and they're trying to bring up. They're having some trouble bringing it up. So I put this guide together on dev.2, a tutorial on how to run drone on any machine that has Docker. So if you follow this, it will use the quick start repository that I created with this Docker compose. So the only thing that I thought might be missing from this Docker compose was that I was bringing up everything on the same network. I believe I saw the same error that this person was seeing until I brought everything up on the same network. In this case, I'm using this drone net network. And the runner, actually, if you want all of the containers that launch in your pipeline to come up on that same network, I believe that's what the drone runner networks parameter is. So I think that's also important. Let's see, can I find documentation on that? Docker provides a list of Docker networks that are attached to every pipeline step. So if you have other containers or other things that the runner is not launching and maintaining for you, this would give you a way of connecting to them. And that makes sense because then, yeah. Yeah, so give that a try if you've never brought up your own drone instance before. It should work well for you. Yeah, he's showing some errors in the logs. Let's see, what else? What else can we talk about? Yeah, someone was asking, do you need to have a drone YAML checked in to your GitHub repository for drone to watch? And the answer is yes. Drone requires that .drone.yml file in the root of the repository. When events are happening from your source code solution, webhook events are being sent to drone, and then drone goes back out to your repository and tries to download this file. So there's no way for it to retrieve that, file from anywhere else, like maybe its own database or something. It's got to come from the drone. Can't speak today. It's got to come from the repository where the webhooks are coming from. So that's the same as Travis and Circle and GitHub Actions. They all work the same kind of way. So I did think it was worth mentioning that Harness, we have a separate CI solution service, software as a service, that when you use it, we do have hosted environments now, which is a big improvement as of fairly recently, where if you go to app.harness.io, maybe I can even show this a bit. It's drone office hours, but we can talk about other CI stuff. Once I remember how to sign in, I think this is my credentials. This is free. There's a free tier to all Harness products when you sign up through app.harness.io. You'll notice, look at that logo. It looks just like the drone logo, doesn't it? It's not a coincidence. Harness CI pulls in a lot of inspiration and some features of drone. Like you can use drone plugins in Harness CI pipelines. So they're definitely getting more and more in common as time goes on. So for folks that are looking for a hosted solution, and in this case, someone who's asking for a way to maintain a pipeline outside of the repository, Harness CI does that. So you can create pipelines. Here I have a few. So here's a pipeline that I've defined completely in Harness CI. This does not exist in the repository at all. So that can be an advantage, that depending on your environment, your use case. It does also potentially work with YAML that can be hosted in a Git repository as well, but it doesn't have to be. So just a little information about what other options are out there from Harness. Definitely worth checking out if you need a way to maintain your pipelines outside of the repository, and Drone isn't doing that for you. This is a good topic, I thought. So someone is using the drone, the cron capability. Let's close out a bunch of tabs and look for cron. So I could show, if I go into any drone repository, let's go back into this one. Cron jobs can be managed. So if you have a pipeline, that needs to execute at certain times, this is going to help you. So in the web interface here, I can select, hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, which, is probably okay for a lot of use cases, but not for everyone. So at the moment, if you want to get more granular than what you can do in the web interface, you can use the drone CLI. So back to talking about the drone CLI again. So this is where you would need to get your drone token. If you go in your drone instance and click right down here, bottom left, you'll have a link to your own profile account in the drone instance. If I clicked it, you'd see my credentials, so I'm not going to click it. But you'd see a drone server variable and a drone token variable. If you put those into your environment and you use the drone CLI this way, you can interact with it and create cron job definitions. So if I did, let's do this one right now. I don't know if I have, how is my environment configured? I'm not sure which drone instance I'm configured to use at the moment. It's not going to work. Something else. Let's get this into my environment and then I can show it. Please hold. Just to set up my environment off screen so you couldn't get my token. So I can do things like drone repo info. That one I was just looking at was drone sandbox, right? Yep. So it gives me information back about how that repo is configured in drone. It's public. It's not private. It's not trusted. It's not protected. And we can do cron job stuff. So let's do cron-h, cron ls. It's not going to know a repo. So if I say this one again, nothing will come back because there's no cron jobs. If I go and I create one example, you can specify the branch. I don't think my branch is main. Let me do an ls now, and there my example cron job show appears. So if I wanted to do do another one. cron add, give it the repo, give it a name, and then give it some, arbitrary cron syntax. Then that's fully supported. So I'm no longer limited by what the UI will let me do with hourly, weekly, and so on. So I can do full cron syntax. So the thing to keep in mind when you're working with cron jobs in drone is that most of the time with cron, you're limited to a minute. At the minute level, if you use cron like as a sysadmin at the operating system level, with drone, you have an extra field. You can actually do seconds, which is not possible in normal cron implementations, but it is possible in drone. So if you're going and finding cron examples, just make sure that you are including the seconds in your in what you're setting. So you probably want that first field is probably always going to be 0 unless you have some reason for it to run at some second between minutes. So that's the important thing to keep in mind with cron jobs and drone. Yeah, and this person was asking, cron jobs get tricky when you want to say, like, I want something to run every 3 months. Well, every 3 months is not always a certain number of days, right? It can be 90 days, it can be 92 days, it can be less. So what I normally see people do is reference the month name specifically. So you can say, I want this to run on, January 1st and then March 1st and so on. So you get away from the inherent difficulties with a number of days or, specifying a number of months in between. So that's just something you have to deal with cron in general, not specific to drone. What else is worth talking about? I've managed to ramble for 35 minutes now. This is impressive, isn't it? So yeah, Fred here was maybe another good one to talk about. So he's got an environment, or he's working with the environment extension. So I've never used this. There are many different extensions to drone. A lot of the time with drone, there's no need to add on other components to drone server. It's not like Jenkins where you're installing, a lot of different plugins, to get certain features that you need. I think one of the advantages of drone is that plugins and most of the time, the things you need, you can do in a pipeline step in a Docker image. So a lot of time there will be a Docker image that's already an official plugin. Like if you look at plugins.drone.io, we've got all these plugins from the community. And you can do all kinds of cool stuff that don't require doing anything at the server side. The drone server never has to be changed or reconfigured. The exception to that is sometimes extensions. And there are a few different kinds. There's environment extensions, there's conversion extensions. I believe environment extensions are set at the runner. Okay, let me read the documentation, see if I'm right. Extend the additional is. Yeah, I believe you pass this to as an environment variable to the runner. Yes, here we go. You can register an extension with your runners by providing the following configuration parameters. So when you bring up your runner, set these variables, and when pipelines execute, they can retrieve information from this type of extension. So that can be pretty powerful. Like if you want to retrieve secrets, That's definitely a use case, or other things that for whatever reason you don't want to put it in the YAML, you don't want to put it in as a secret on the repo. Maybe it's values that change, maybe they get pulled from somewhere else, and there's some reason that they can't be put directly in there. So that's another option for an extension, that you couldn't meet that kind of need easily with a plugin. And you can always, anything you can run in a Docker container, you can run in a drone pipeline. So you can always hit API endpoints through whatever tool you want and retrieve your information. But extensions like this can definitely make it easier and put it directly into your YAML syntax. Yeah, I don't have I don't think this is resolved, this discussion at the moment, but maybe I'll get a chance to play around with the environment extension and see if I can help out there. And that, gets us pretty far along, and it brings us to today. So yeah, hopefully there will be some good information in there that we can put into this recording and provide in the future for if people have similar questions. Come back to my slides. I like ending with this one. So I was just showing the Slack. The official Slack is harnesscommunity.slack.com. There's a drone room in there. Come in and join that and ask questions. And you can see all the good interactions that we had this last week. You can be a part of that. Community.harness.io is our discourse forum. I try to be active in there too. I didn't get to talk about anything in there. Maybe that'll be next week. Maybe we'll focus on discussions that are happening in there. This office hours is happening and scheduled through our Harness meetup. You can get it and find it in meetup.com/harness. All the drone documentation is under docs.drone.io. And the article that I was mentioning earlier that I wrote on dev.to on how to run your own drone instance on any machine with Docker, that's that final link at the bottom. So I think that's going to do it. And yeah, please come and be part of our community, and I will see you next week.